Hello everyone. Good evening all. I hope you can see the screen, right?
Yes.
So fine. Today we are going to see some introduction of Linux. Then we will go ahead with the Linux commands. Okay. So let's proceed. So suppose here, if I talk about Windows, before going to talk something about Linux, I'm just talking about Windows. Why? Because we all are familiar with Windows. That's why I'm going to talk about Windows. Okay, so I'm talking about Windows desktop operating systems. Okay, Windows desktop operating systems. So here, fine. In Windows, every one of you are having idea, right? There are different. So Windows is belongs to which company, guys? It belongs to which company? Windows. Hmm?
Microsoft.
Yes, Microsoft company. So here, fine. In Windows, we will be having Windows XP. Okay, we will be having Windows 98, and we were having Windows 7. Okay, we were having Windows 8, and we will be having Windows 10, and later on we will be having many Windows operating systems. Okay, these are desktop operating systems. Okay, so here, if you observe carefully, in Windows, these all we are going to call it as versions. Okay, these all we are going to call it as versions. Okay, so here, if you observe carefully, from one version to another version, there are little changes. Okay, here the core OS is common. Core OS is common, I mean Windows only, but from Windows 7 to Windows 8, you can find some extra features and extra options you can see. From Windows 8 to Windows 10 also. Like that, from each and every version, you can see some small differences. But 95% of core OS is same, right? So only suppose if you take Windows 8 to Windows 10, you can see small options. And of course, those options also you can explore by your own. Okay, there is no much difference. Maybe UI might be different. And suppose if you take in Windows 7, the start button will be somewhere else. Okay. And in Windows 8, the start button will be here. Okay, like that. Some small modifications will be there. So here, suppose if we want to release Windows 12, let us assume. Okay, so can I release this Windows 12 version? If I want to release Windows one more operating system, can I release Windows 12 version? Is it possible for me? Is it possible for me? Hmm? Is it possible for me, guys? If I want to release one version in Windows, can I release the version? Kindly respond, guys.
I think no.
Yeah. Huh? So here, yes, it is not possible for us. Why? Because, so here, the operating system related source code is available with Microsoft company. Why? Because Windows belongs to Microsoft company. The operating system source code also will be with Microsoft company only. Okay, so the source code is with Microsoft company. If they want to release version, only Microsoft company can do this, not anybody else in the world. And of course, if you ask that source code also, if you pay money also, they will not release this source code. Okay, only Microsoft company can able to release the versions. Okay, so fine. These are Windows desktop operating systems. In the same manner, you will be having Windows Server operating systems also, like Windows Server 2008, Windows Server 2012, 16, 19, like that. Server operating systems also there. In all the Windows, we are going to call it as versions in Windows. You might be thinking why you are talking about Windows. Why? Because before jumping into Linux, we all are familiar with Windows. That's why I'm first talking about Windows and then I'm going to talk about Unix. Okay, now we will talk about Unix. Kallu muskoni padko. We will talk about Unix. Okay, so here, unlike Windows, okay, see in Windows source code is free, is not free, right? So that is there with Microsoft company. If they want to release any version, only Microsoft company can able to do, not anybody else in the world. Suppose, unlike Windows, if you take Unix, Unix source code is free. Okay, so here, and of course, why? Because Unix source code is open to world. Okay, anybody can use this source code and you can invent your own operating systems. Okay, so as this source code is free, so what happened? One such guy, like Linus Torvalds, the person name is Linus Torvalds. Okay, I'll show you that person name also. In Google, you just search for Linus Torvalds. So he is the one who has invented a Linux operating system. See, he is the one. He belongs to New York. So here he is the one who has been invented Linux operating system. So how he has been invented Linux operating system? He has taken the source code of Unix and he has created his own operating system. So he kept that operating system name as Linux. Okay. And in the same manner, even we will be having different different operating systems. Like suppose if I take Unix here, okay, we have different types of Unix operating systems here. Okay, so why? Because Unix source code is free. That's why what happened, Linus Torvalds has taken this source code and he has invented his own operating system and he kept his own name, that is Linux. So here, fine. In the same manner, one more company, that is IBM company, took the source code of Unix and it's been invented its own operating system, that is AIX. Okay, and here one more company, that is HP company, took the source code of Unix and it's been invented its own operating system, that is HP UX. Okay, like HP UX. Okay, like one more company, I think Mac company. Yeah, Mac company took the source code of Unix and it's been invented its own operating system, that is iOS. Like this, different companies like Solaris. Okay, so different companies took the source code of Unix and they have invented their own operating system here. Okay, so here, fine. They have created their own operating system, but among all these operating systems, the base OS is, core OS is Unix. Okay, there is some small 5% of changes will be there from one operating system to another operating system. Okay, source code, basic source code is free here. I mean, the core OS is same. In all the operating system, core OS is Unix only. That means 95% of Unix features will be having, and only 5% flavors, 5% features they are going to add the respective. If it is HP company, they will add only 5% features to their respective OS. Okay, if it is Mac company, they will add only 5% features to their Mac OS. Okay, so in Linux, we are going to call all these all we are going to call in Linux as flavors of Unix. We are going to call all this in Linux as flavors of Unix. Whereas in Windows, we will call it as versions. In the same manner, even in Unix also, we are having different flavors of Unix. And again, here, if we take all these things like IBM, HP, Mac OS, Solaris, all those things. So here, among all these things, only the Linux source code is free and remaining all are not free. If you want to use iOS in your organization, you have to pay some amount to Mac company. Then only they will release this source code. But unlike these things, what will be happen? Linus Torvalds, what he has done? He has been created one Linux operating system, and he kept the source code of Linux operating system open to world. So what happened? The Linux source code also took by different companies. Okay, the Linux source code also took by different companies, like some companies like CentOS. CentOS means Community Enterprise Operating System. Okay, CentOS. Okay, they took source code of Linux. One company took the source code of Linux. That company is Red Hat Enterprise Linux. Like this, different companies took the source code of Linux and they have invented their own operating system. Among all these, also, these we are going to call it as flavors of Linux. Okay, flavors of Linux. So here also, what happened? Here, the base core OS is 95% of core OS is Linux only. Only 5% of features will be there, the respective company features. Okay, so here, fine. Like this, we have more than 200 flavors of Linux operating systems. Like SUSE Linux is there, Fedora Linux is there. Okay, Ubuntu is there. Many operating systems are there. Okay, what are those? We will be having SUSE Linux is there. Okay, Fedora Linux is there. Ubuntu Linux is there. Okay, so like this, more than 200, like, you will be having Amazon Linux also. Amazon company took the source code of Linux and it's been invented its own operating system. They kept their own name as Amazon Linux. Okay, and here, Fedora company took the source code of this, Linux, and they have invented their own operating system. So these are all the things we will call it as flavors of Linux. Okay, we are going to call it as flavors of Linux. Fine. Here, let's see some more things here. This is the bit history of Linux here. Here, fine. In companies, if we observe carefully, almost in all the companies, if you want to deploy any applications, we will be using Linux only. So next question will comes, why we should use Linux? Why we should use Linux here? Why? Question mark. Okay, why we have to use Linux here? Suppose I'll talk about Windows first, then I will talk about Linux. Okay, first I will talk about Windows, then I will talk about Linux. Why? Because we are much familiar with Windows. That's why first I will talk about Windows, then I will talk about Linux. So if you compare with Windows, we are having many more advantages in Linux, which we are not getting in Windows. Okay, and of course, which is better? If you observe carefully, if you want to, if Microsoft company has released one more version of Windows, then what will be happen? We are not taking any coaching here. We don't require any coaching here. Okay, why? Because Windows operating system is user friendly. We can have many user friendly options. Okay, but unlike Windows, in Linux, if you want to learn Linux, we require some coaching. We require some coaching for Linux. And of course, why? Because it is not having user-friendly options. It is not having user-friendly options. Okay, it is not having user-friendly features or user-friendly options. So here, even many are using Linux only. Why? Because we are getting many advantages in Linux than Windows. That's why even companies are preferring Linux only. So Do you have any idea, guys? What are the advantages we are getting with Linux, which we are not getting in Windows? Can anyone of you tell me? Do you have any idea on Linux operating system? Anyone?
Storage, I mean space.
Yes. Yes, of course. It is one of the advantage. Storage, or we can call it as, space. We can call it as storage. Okay. Storage. And of course, what else? Okay, the first and most important advantage is
UI.
UI, the source code. Okay,
Okay.
source code is free. Free in the sense the source code is open to the world. Even now also, Linux source code is available in the net. You can even make use of that source code and you can invent your own operating system and you can keep your name. That's why here it is free. It is a open source. Okay, that is the first advantage. And second one is, as you said, storage. Okay, that means uses less resources. Less resources or storage, both are same. Okay, and next one is, what
Security.
else? Sorry?
Security.
Yes, exactly. Security. This is the most important one. See, security in the sense, we have to talk about different ways. Like security in terms of virus attacks. Okay. And of course, security in terms of hacker attacks. Okay. So here in Linux, we are having source code is free. That means anyone can able to use the source code of Linux and they can invent their own operating system. That is the first and most advantage. And of course, if you use Windows, we have to pay some amount to the Microsoft company. But if you use Linux, you no need to pay anyone. You no need to pay to anyone because the source code is free. It's free. It is an open source. Okay. So here, that is the first and important advantage. And of course, for license related things also, most of the companies will be spending a lot of money. That's why this is the, here if you use Linux operating system, they can save lot of revenue. That is the first criteria. That's why people are preferring to Linux. And second one is, most important is security. Security in terms of virus. Okay. And hacker attacks. Suppose in Windows, let us talk about virus here. Suppose in Windows, if you install any software, suppose if that software is having any virus, then what will be happen? That will spread to all files and folders in your laptop. Okay, if that software is having any virus in it, then that will be spread to each and every corner of your operating system. So because of that, what will be happen? Sometimes we may have to uninstall the operating system. That situations also will come in Windows. But in Linux, if you install any package or software, if that software is having any virus, then what will be happen? That will be confined to that folder only. It will not spread each and every corner of the Linux operating system. That is the most advantage. First and most advantage in Linux. That is in terms of virus. Suppose if we talk about hacker attacks. Okay, how hackers will enter into your laptop, guys? How hackers can hack the data? How they are going to enter
Via
into the
internet.
operating system? Hmm?
Through internet.
Yeah, of course, through internet. That means suppose if you are launching one server, how the hackers can enter into this server? Through ports. Okay, through ports. So hacker can enter into the ports. Okay, what they will do? They may harm to our machine. Okay, harm means what kind of harm they are going to do? They may steal the data, which might be very useful to you, and they may hack your credit card or bank details. Okay, all those details they are going to hack. Okay, so hacker attacks are more in Windows. Why? Because for us Windows is easy, for hackers it is bit difficult. But for us, Linux is difficult. For hackers, it is more difficult. That's why hacker attacks are more in Windows, but less in Linux. Almost, I can say that 0.1% chances are there. Why? Because in Linux, we are not having many user-friendly options. That's why hacker attacks are almost, we can say, no hacker attacks. That is a major advantage if we talk about Linux. Coming to this, less resources. Less resources means here, suppose even, we have seen one example in our second class or third class. Like if you launch Windows, Windows instance, how much hard disk it consumed?
30 GB.
That
30 GB, right? So if you launch Windows instance, it was taking 30 GB. It was occupying 30 GB space. Suppose if I launch Linux instance, how much it was taking?
8 GB.
8 GB. Right? Why this much of difference here? Any idea, guys? Why Windows is having this much of difference?
Windows is a high level, like Linux is a low, kind of
High level means?
high level, like we can say like a huge graphic user interface, right?
Yes, exactly. Windows is having graphical user interface along with command line interface. Along with command line interface, we are having graphical user interface. That's why it is consuming more space. Whereas in Linux, we don't have any graphical user interface. We will have only command line interface. And of course, we can even install graphical user interface in Linux also. But if you install graphical user interface in Linux, there is no difference between Windows and Linux, right? That's why generally people will never prefer installing graphical user interface in Linux. Okay, just I'll give you one simple example here. Like, suppose if you are, let us say, talk about songs. Okay, if I talk about songs, okay, if you see the size of MP3, how much it will be approximately? How
Like
much the size of MP3 approximately?
2 MB, 3 MB max.
Sometimes it might be KBs,
Yeah,
right? In terms of KBs, it might be. But if you choose MP4, how much the size of MP4 approximately?
20 MB, 50 MB depends on
Yeah,
the.
like in MBs, right? Why this much difference here? Why the MP3 song is in KBs and why the MP4 song is in MBs?
The difference is that is only sound. This is will be sound with the graphics, right?
Yes, exactly. So if you take MP3, you will be having only audio. Okay, only audio will be there in MP3. That's why it will not consume much space. Whereas if you take MP4, it will be having audio and as well as video. That's why it is consuming lot of space. In the same manner, if you have graphical user interface, that will become heavy operating system. Okay, we don't have any graphical user interface in Linux. That's why we will call it as Linux is a, lightweight operating system. Okay, that is the third advantage. And next, fourth advantage is I can call about it is multi-user and multitask. Okay, multi-user and multitasking. If you want to know about this multi-user and multitasking, you should know some more things like uh, first I will talk about 5. Single user, single task. What is single user, single task, guys? Can anyone of you give some example for the single user and single task?
So he can able to perform at a time only single action, not able to multiple user, and no
Yes, in
other
name
user,
itself, it is indicating that
no other
we
user
can
can
able
log in,
to,
only one user.
yeah, only one user can log in and only one task can do at a time. Okay, one user can log in into the server and he can do only one task at a time. Okay, suppose I'll give you example as MS-DOS. Do you have any idea on MS-DOS? Anyone? Winner
Yeah.
asli MS-DOS anedi?
Winner. Yes.
So here, MS-DOS means in olden days, before the Windows 8, Windows 7 was not there, Windows 98 was not there, MS-DOS were there. Okay, MS-DOS means Microsoft Disk Operating System. Okay, so in MS-DOS, we were having only command line interface. We will not have any user interface. Like in Windows, we will have user interface, graphical user interface now. But in olden days, before Windows XP, Windows 98 was not there, we were having only MS-DOS here. We will not have any graphical user interface. There, what will be happen? If you want to do any task, only one user can log into the operating system and he can do only one task at a time. That is the single user, single task. Suppose one more you have to understand, like single user, multitask. Single user multitask means I can give you example as like Windows. Whatever the things we are seeing like Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 10, all the things will comes under single user, single task concept. Means here one user can log into the operating system and he can do any number of tasks. Suppose I can log in, I'm teaching the class, and in turn I can do my work also, or else you can listen to YouTube video songs and you can do your work. Like that, multiple tasks you can do. Okay, that will support by Windows 7, Windows 8 and all. That is the concept of single user multitask. And you will be having, not last but not least, multi-user and multitask. Multi-user multitask means, example I can give it as Linux. Okay, how we are going to do? In Linux, you will be having only one CPU. Okay, CPU is only one. But we can connect different monitors. Okay, these are monitors. We can connect any number of monitors like this. Okay, there is no limit at all. Okay, we can connect any number of monitors like this to the single CPU. That means you are having only one computer, right? But how they are going to operate? We will be creating user accounts and they will log into the same CPU with different usernames. Okay, that's why we will, and they can do multiple tasks here. Not only logging into the same CPU, they can even in each and every individual can do their own task here. Multiple tasks they can do. Okay, that is the major advantage in case of Linux operating system. Even you might be having doubt. Even in Windows also we can do. We can create the users and they can log into the same CPU. Yes, even in Windows also there, but there is some limit in Windows. Suppose some 10 users are logging into the same CPU. Okay, 11th user also wants to enter into the CPU. Any one of the user among this 10 user should log out. Then only the 11th user can log in. Okay, the limited number of users we can create in Windows. But whereas in Linux, there is no limit here. Okay, there is no limit in case of Linux. That is a major advantage here. Okay, fine. Now, these are the most of the advantages which we are getting in Linux operating system, which we are not getting in Windows. Okay, so you should know all these things, guys. You might be having doubt like why we are telling all these things means these are all basic concepts like flavors of Linux we are going to use in our DevOps, like what flavor of Unix we are using. Even in companies also, different companies will be using different flavors of Linux operating system. Okay, at that time you should not get confused. What is this? What is that? Like that. Okay, that's why you have to have these ideas here. Fine. Let us see structure of operating system. How the structure of operating system will be. Structure of operating system, let's see. So here, first what I will do, I will talk about Windows and then I will talk about Linux. You might be thinking why you are always talking about Windows. Why? Because we all are familiar with Windows. That's why if I explain in Windows first, then you can easily correlate the things in Linux. That's why firstly I'm explaining in Windows, then I'm correlating things in Linux. Okay, so fine. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is, let us draw the things. Okay, so inside you will be having hardware. Hardware means your laptop or desktop. Okay, this is the hardware. And here you will be having operating system. Okay, and here you will be having shell. Okay, here you will be having user. Okay, this is the structure of operating system in Windows. That means if you want to communicate with your laptop, user wants to communicate with laptop, first he is going to communicate with shell. Shell will communicating with the operating system. Operating system will communicate with hardware. In the same manner, we are going to get response back. Like hardware will communicate with operating system. Operating system will communicate with shell. Shell will interact with user. Shell means the black color screen, guys. You can open this command prompt. So you can see some black color screen over here. So that is the shell here. I think you can able to see the black color screen now. This black color screen, we are going to call it as shell. Okay. So you might be thinking, we having shell here, but we can even, if you want to create any folder, through shell only we used to create when we were working with the MS-DOS. But now there is one more extra layer came here. That extra layer will be there on top of shell. On top of shell, there is one extra layer will be there. Okay. This extra layer, we are going to call it as graphical layer. Okay. So this extra layer, we are going to call it as graphical layer. So if you want to communicate, what is going to happen here? User will communicate with graphical layer. Graphical layer will be communicating with shell. Shell will be communicating with operating system. Operating system will communicating with hardware. In the reverse manner, we are going to get a response back. We are having extra graphical layer here in case of your Windows. Whereas in Linux, let's see how the structure of Linux will be. So here also, we are having all these things. So this is the hardware, or I can call it as laptop or desktop, anything. And here we are going to have operating system. Here also we are going to have shell, and we are going to have user. Suppose user wants to communicate with the hardware. What is going to happen? User will communicate with shell first. Shell will communicate with the operating system first, and operating system will communicate with hardware. In the reverse manner, we will get the response. Hardware will give response back to OS. OS will give response back to shell. Shell will give response back to user. So here, to be frank, we should not say it as operating system. Instead, we have to call it as kernel. Okay. So in Linux, we are going to call this operating system as kernel. Okay. We should not call it as operating system in Linux terminology. We should call it as kernel. Okay. So kernel is nothing but operating system. Understood the structure, guys? All of you? So let me show you the slides. You will understand a little more. Just a minute. Let me show you my slides. See here. Operating system means it is an interface. See, here is the user. Okay. If user wants to communicate with hardware or with your computer, in between, we need operating system. Okay. With the help of operating system means it is a kind of language using which we can communicate with, this computer. Okay. Without operating system, we cannot communicate with the laptop. Okay, that is the operating system. So here, these we are going to call it as flavors of Unix, like Linux, okay, Mac OS X, Solaris, HP. These all we are going to call it as flavors of Linux. Okay, and these we are going to call it as flavors of Unix. Red Hat Enterprise Linux, CentOS, Ubuntu, Amazon Linux, Fedora, Linux Mint, OpenSUSE, many are there, more than 200 Linux operating systems are there. Why we see flavors means like, if we take ice cream, guys, okay, if you want chocolate flavor, then we will be adding only that chocolate. Base ice cream is same. But if you want to have chocolate flavor, then we will add only that particular flavor. If you want to have mango ice cream, then we will be adding only mango flavor in that. In such a way. Okay. So only base OS is same here. Only 5% of changes you can observe from each and every operating system here. So why we are preferring Linux here? Why? Because it is multi-user, multitasking. It is open source. It is secure. Secure means we should talk about two cases. That is security in terms of virus attacks and as well as security in terms of hacker attacks. Okay, whatever I have explained, that only I kept in slides. Need less resources. Linux operating system consume very less resources than Windows. That's why it is a lightweight operating system. Next is architecture of Linux. Already we have seen this, right? So, fine. Next and most important thing in Linux as well as in DevOps. Okay. So, the next and most important thing in Linux or DevOps is file system hierarchy. File system hierarchy. This is very, 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 very important. Important means they will not ask you in interviews, but in DevOps, if you want to know some things, you have to know about this file system hierarchy. So first, I will talk about Windows. Later on, I will talk about Linux. Okay, first I will talk about Windows, about this file system hierarchy, and then I will talk about Linux. So, fine. Suppose if you install Windows operating system, okay, so before that, you should know some differences between Windows and Linux. Suppose if you log in into the Windows, by default, you will be logged in as an admin, right? Okay. In the same manner, in Linux also, if you log into the Linux operating system, you will be logged in as a root user. Okay. Admin in Windows is almost equal to root user in Linux. Okay. In Windows, we will call it as software. Okay. Whereas in Linux, we are going to call it as package. Okay. And in Windows, if you call it as admin user, in Linux, we will call it as root user. Okay. And in Windows, fine. Windows is all about backward slash. There is backward slash. I could not able to find. Yeah. Windows is all about backward slash, whereas Linux is all about forward slash. Okay. In Windows, we will call it as operating system. In Windows, we will call it as operating system, whereas in Linux, we will be calling it as kernel. Okay, so what is this backward slash and forward slash, guys? Any idea on this? Anyone are having any idea on Linux operating system? Anyone are working with Linux operating system?
No,
Now
but
or
it is
previously or?
separation of the location, like multiple,
Um,
like a path. We can say like a path, right? So
yeah.
where inside, like a tenant kind of.
Yes. Do you have any idea on Linux operating system earlier?
Not that much, but normally when we are using deployment scenarios kind of, right? So basics, little bit.
Yeah, fine, exactly. So here, backward slash is nothing but, suppose if I go to Windows, let me go to my Windows, any drive. Let me go to this PC. I have, I'll go into this Windows. I'll go in any folder. You can choose any folder. In this, I have many folders here. You can choose any folder. You can go inside this. And you have many subfolders, right? Suppose if you copy this path. Okay. So here, if I paste here, so what happened here? Here, this is all about backward slash. Okay, why? Because see here, these backward slashes, we are going to call it as separators in Windows. In Windows, these backward slashes, we are going to call it as separators. That means these backward slashes separating this file and this folder or file, whatever. This folder and this folder. That's why we will call it as separators. Okay. So whereas in Linux, how it is going to be? In the same manner it is going to be, but it is going to have forward slash. Forward slash. So even in Linux also, we are going to call this as separator. Like this, you can have any number of folders. Here you will be having some other folder. Okay. So all these, we are going to call it as separators in Linux also. But the first slash, we will call it as root. Okay. The first slash, we will call it as root here. Okay. That is a difference you have to observe. And of course, in Windows, if you call it as folder, whereas in Linux, we will call it as directory. Okay, fine. Now, here, suppose if you log into the Windows, by default, you will be having C drive, right? So under C drive, we will be having many folders, right? Like some important folders, program files. Okay, you will be having program files and system32 files. Okay, and users, like some folders will be there. Inside this sub folders are there. Like, if I come back. Okay, in Windows, we have many folders, right? These folders will come along with operating system only. Okay, these folders we are going to get along with operating system only. So in the same manner, even in Linux also, we have many folders. As I told, Linux is all about forward slash. If you log into the Linux operating system, by default, you will be under forward slash. Okay, so under this forward slash, we are going to call it as root directory. Okay, under this root directory, in Linux also, we are having many folders. These are you will have n number of folders, but all are not important. Only 5 to 6 folders are there. Those are only important. You just remember those folders only. Why? Because in future, in DevOps, we are going to use all those things a lot. Okay, let's talk about those 5 to 6 folders. First one is root. Okay, root directory, or we will call it as root folder. Okay, so here, this is very important folder. Root means, suppose if you log in as a root user, by default, you will be under this directory. That means root users home directory. Root means it is a root user home directory. Okay, not only this root folder, we have many folders also. This is root. If you log in as a root user, by default, you will be under this root directory. And apart from this, you have one more folder, that is home folder. Home means here also, here, if you log in as a other user, other than root user, by default, you will be under this home directory. Other users home directory. If you log in as a normal user, then by default, you will be under this directory. Okay. So, and again, you will be having one more folder or one more directory, that is USR. Most of the people will be pronouncing it as wrong way, like user. It is not user, it is USR. The main thing in USR is, all packages related information will be there under this USR folder. Suppose if you are installing any package, okay, that package is having some virus, then what will be happen? If you want to uninstall that package, you will come to this specific folder and you will be uninstalling this specific package. Why? Because if that package is having virus, that is confined to this folder only. It is not going to spread here and there. Okay, this is the one more important folder. So next is, we will be having another folder, that is etc. Folder name itself etc only. Okay, etc. Inside this folder, we are having all configuration files will be there under this specific etc folder. Okay, all configuration related files will be under this specific folder. Configuration related files means bootable files. What do you mean by booting? What do you mean by booting, guys? Sorry, not in this directory. In this, we are having only configuration related files. We are having one more directory called boot directory. Boot directory. Okay. So system configuration related files will be there under etc directory. Okay. And OS related files will be there under this boot directory. There is one folder called boot. Okay. OS related files will be there under this boot directory. What is this boot directory, guys? What do you mean by bootable files or OS related files or boot directory?
Like from
What do
off
you mean by booting?
off
Every
mode
one
to
of you are having idea on booting, right?
off mode to on mode.
Uh,
You can say like while your system is off, when you are going to on, so whatever the instructions it will activate and it will on your system, it will work to use. So this process called as a boot.
yes. See, booting means, every one of you knows, I guess. See, booting means, see, as and when you power off your power on your monitor, I mean, as and when you switch on your laptop button, okay, immediately you cannot get that screen, right? You cannot get the display, right? It will take some couple of minutes or couple of seconds sometimes, right? Immediately you cannot see the laptop screen once if you switch on the power button. Okay, as and when you switch on the power button, the time until you see the screen, it will take some time, right? This duration we are going to call it as booting. Okay, what is going to happen in this during this booting process? What is going to happen during this booting process? In this during this booting process, the OS related files or all configuration files will be coming from inactive state to active state. That is what we are going to call it as booting. Okay, all OS related files will come from inactive state to active state. Then the operating system will be working actively. That is the booting here. As and when you power on your laptop power button till the time you see the screen. This entire duration we are going to call it as booting. During this booting process, it may take sometimes around 5 minutes also. It all depends. Okay, so during this time, all OS related files or configuration files will be coming from inactive state to active state. Okay, that is the process of booting. Okay, so in case of Linux also, all OS related files will be there under this boot directory. And of course, we are having one more directory, that is bin directory. See, we have thousands of directories, guys. Among all those directories, these are only the ones which we are going to use frequently. Okay, which we are going to use frequently in DevOps. That's why I'm discussing about these directories only. Next is bin directory. In this bin directory, we are having commands. Okay, we are having commands. What commands? commands which are executed by other user. Okay, that means if you log in as a root user, if you log in as a normal user, you can execute the commands which are there in this bin directory only. And of course, last but not least is sbin. Sbin directory. Suppose here in sbin, if you log in as a root user, here also we will be having commands only. But if you log in as a root user, then you can execute the commands which are there in sbin directory. Okay, these are the things. Suppose here, if you log in as a, let us assume in bin directory you are having some 100 commands. Okay, and in sbin directory you are having some 150 commands. Okay, in sbin directory you are having some 150 commands. Suppose if you log in as a root user, you can execute the commands which are there in sbin directory as well as which are there in bin directory. That means totally you can execute 100 plus 150. 250 commands we can execute. If you log in as a root user, you can execute the commands which are there in bin directory and as well as sbin directory. Okay, but if you log in as a normal user, other than root user, if you log in as a normal user, you can execute the commands only which are there in bin directory. That means only you can execute 100 commands only. Okay, so for root user will be having extra privileges. Okay, and one more thing I forgot to tell you. See, if I call as a root user, whether I am referring this directory or this directory, to which directory I am referring. See here, we are getting such kind of confused. That's why what we are going to call it as the slash, we are going to call it as top level root directory. Okay, the forward slash, we are going to call it as top level root directory. And this is simply, we are going to call it as root directory. If I am calling root directory means by default, it will be here here itself. If I am calling top level root directory means you will be under this directory. Under top level root directory, we have all these directories. Okay, like root, home, USR, etc, boot, bin, sbin, all these directories will be there under top level root directory. By default, if I call it as root directory, you will be inside this directory only. Understand? Understood the structure, guys? Everyone? Understood this file system hierarchy? Everyone? This is very important. You just mug it up. By heart these things. Why? Because in future, we are going to use all these directories a lot. Okay, so at that time, mostly we are going to use ETC, home, USR, of course, these folders. Okay, every now and then we are going to use this ETC and home. And of course, we will see around sometimes we are going to see the remaining directories. Most of the time, we will call about ETC directory only. Okay, so here, fine. Here, fine. Let me show you the slide. Then you will understand little clearly. Fine. Here, see, forward slash. It is the top level root directory. Under for top level root directory, you have one directory called root. Root means it is home directory for root user. Okay, under top level root directory, you have one directory called home. It is home directory for other user. Under top level root directory, you have one directory called boot. It contains all bootable files. Okay, so under top level root directory, you have one directory called etc. It contains all configuration related files. Under top level root directory, you have one directory called USR. In this, you will be having all softwares. If you install any package or software, that will be there under this directory. Under top level root directory, you have one directory called bin directory. It contains all the commands which are executed by all the users. Means if you log in as a normal user, you will execute the commands which are there in bin directory. Okay. Under top level root directory, you have one directory called sbin. It contains the commands which are executed by only root user. Okay. These directories are very, very, very important in Linux. Okay, so this is all about Linux introduction. I mean Unix or Linux introduction, flavors of Linux, how the Linux got emerged. Okay, before Linux was not there, how the things were working, and what are all the advantages of Linux over Windows. Okay, why we are choosing Linux over Windows, and of course, structure of Linux, flavors of Unix, and file system hierarchy of Linux. This is somewhat introduction of Linux. So in tomorrow's class, we will see some Linux commands. Okay, we will start with Linux commands. From tomorrow class onwards, we will start with Linux commands. Okay, so you just by heart this directory structure. You can either remember this or you can by heart this one. This is very important. You can just mug it up. Okay, so and of course by default, slowly once if you are doing hands-on, by default you will be remembering all these directories. But as of now, if I use any etc directory, you should not forget, like all configuration related files will be there under this etc directory. Okay, just mug it up this structure. Mug it up. Okay, just you can by heart or you can remember. It's up to you. But this structure is very, very, very important. Throughout the DevOps class, somewhere else we are going to use all these directories. Okay, somewhere. Okay, we are going to use all these directories throughout the DevOps class. Okay, so for today, you just go through this introduction part. From tomorrow onwards, we will do hands-on. Okay, from tomorrow onwards, we will not have this much theory classes. We are going to see hands-on classes because practicals are more important. Okay, just while we are starting the tools, I'll be giving you introduction of the tool, and then we are going to see complete hands-on. Okay, so from tomorrow onwards, we'll see some Linux commands. Okay, any doubts do you have, guys, in today's class? So by tomorrow, you will be created with one WhatsApp group. So you can discuss if you have any doubts, all technical doubts you can discuss in that WhatsApp group. Okay. As of now, do you have any doubts in today's class?
Yeah, no, Jyothi. Hello.
Yeah. Others, are you able to understand what I'm trying to tell you, everyone?
Yes.
Yeah. Naveen Garu, you?
Yes, yes, I'm understanding.
Yeah, fine. Both of you, do you have any idea previously on Linux operating system?
I
Little
don't
bit.
have any idea.
No, no.
Okay. You, Leela?
Yeah, a little bit idea I have. Like I'm using Linux now. Like my OS
Okay.
is Linux.
Okay, fine. Then you know how to create files, folders, and all, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, fine. And the others, if you have that idea, then I will not explain about those things. Otherwise, I have to start from basics onwards. Shall I
Yeah.
start from basics? If you have
Yes.
idea, then I will go forward. Otherwise, I should explain the basic concepts in
No
Linux
need to
first.
take that much time for that. Just you can just kind of revision, kind of.
Yeah.
Naveen, you are not having any idea, right, on Linux?
I don't have, but you can teach it fast. I can learn things very fast.
Okay, fine. So it's just I will give you some brush up kind of things because some of you are having idea and some of you are not having idea. Let us not jump into the advanced topics initially. So let's start from basics. I won't take much time, hardly 1 or 2 classes I will take for Linux basics because you should know how to create files, folders, how to switch from many some basics are there. Tomorrow we will see all those basics, and maximum Linux course will be there around 4 to 5 classes. Okay, in that I'm going to cover all Linux commands which we are going to use frequently in DevOps. Okay, maximum 4 to 5 classes. I will try to finish the Linux. If I'm finishing Linux means it's not compulsory that you will get 100% of Linux. See, Linux, if you want to learn only Linux, separate course is there. Even if you learn for 6 months, that is not completed. Okay, Linux is a kind of ocean. Okay, so I'm going to teach the things which we are going to use for DevOps. Okay, maximum commands I'm going to cover in during these 4 to 5 days. Okay, then after still if some commands are left over, then I will explain the commands which are not covered in this Linux class when the time comes. When the DevOps tools comes, there if you are unable to cover some 5 to 6 commands, then I will explain at that time. But maximum we are going to cover all the Linux commands which we are going to use frequently in DevOps especially. Okay, fine. Any other doubts do you have?
యా జ్యోతి, ఒక చిన్న విషయము యాక్చువల్గా ఇప్పుడు
Yeah.
మేము 3 మెంబర్సే ఉన్నాం కదా.
Uh,
సో బ్యాచ్ విల్ కంటిన్యూ అవుతుందా
yes,
లేదా?
batch will continue.
సో యాక్చువల్గా లాస్ట్ టైం ఇదే ఇష్యూ ఉండి
Yeah,
స్టార్ట్
last time batch continue అవ్వకూడదు అనుకుంటే ఈ రోజు క్లాస్ ఉండేది కాదు.
మళ్ళీ ఏమంటే మా ప్రాబ్లం ఏంటంటే మాకు ఎవరు తెలియదు. సో సో అందుకు కంటిన్యూ అవుతుంది.
That's what I'm telling. Only first 3 classes will be demo classes. And of course, demo in the sense we will be giving some basics. Okay. From 4th class onwards, we enter into the actual course.
Oh.
Okay. So batch will continue even for 3 members also. Okay. And one more person is about to join, 1 or 2 persons, whether they join or not. For you 3 people also, batch will continue to run.
Okay.
Mostly 90% they will join. If not, also for 3 people also, batch will be there.
Then fine. So that is our requirement, because again, if it is stop again, it will be time waste.
Yeah, that's what I'm telling. Even if you have only 3 members also, batch will be there. Mostly the persons will join. Even though if they are not joining also, no problem. I will continue this batch.
Then thank you so much for that.
Yeah. Any other doubts?
Yeah, nothing. Yesterday అదే ఒక ఫైల్ కమాండ్స్ ఫైల్ ఇస్తా అన్నారు కదా, అవి షేర్ చేస్తారా?
Commands file.
Linux
Okay.
commands, I
Fine.
think.
I will share.
Yeah. Okay.
Actually, I thought your WhatsApp group will be created by today itself. Fine. I'll share to admin team so that they will share to you. Okay.
Okay. If
You can
possible,
contact with admin team
PPTs.
tomorrow. Sorry.
Okay. If possible, ఆ PPTs మీరు ఏదో చెప్తున్నారు కదా, అది కూడా
PPTs తో మీరు ఏం చేస్తారండి?
అంటే ఎప్పుడైనా బ్రషప్ చేసుకోవాలంటే
So
ఉంటదని.
better. My suggestion ఏంటంటే, instead of going with all these PPTs and recorded videos, while you are listening to the class, you just go to this video once and better to prepare your own running notes in your own language. Why? Because during this class hours only, I'm going to tell some interview point of view questions also. Like this kind of questions they are going to ask in interviews. Like that, I'm going to convey to you. So at that time, every now and then you cannot go to this long 1 hour videos, right? So it's better to maintain. So today ante meeku only theory undi, but tomorrow onwards you will have some commands. Okay, avanni
Okay.
మీరు గుర్తు పెట్టుకోవడం కూడా highly impossible. ఓకే, సో మీరు ఏం చేస్తారంటే విన్నప్పుడు మీరు రన్నింగ్ నోట్స్ రాసుకోండి. ఏదైనా ఇంటర్వ్యూ క్వశ్చన్ ఇంటర్వ్యూ పాయింట్ ఆఫ్ వ్యూ అడుగుతారు అని నేను స్పెసిఫిక్ గా చెప్పాను అనుకోండి, ఆ ఇంటర్వ్యూ క్వశ్చన్స్ అన్ని మీరు సపరేట్ గా మెయింటైన్ చేయండి. సో మీకు ఇంటర్వ్యూస్కి వెళ్ళినప్పుడు దట్ విల్ బి హెల్ప్ఫుల్ ఫర్ యూ. Even it's a kind of quick reference for you. If you maintain a running notes, then it's a kind of quick reference for you.
Okay,
Because
thank you.
highly impossible. Around you will be having around 45 to 50 classes, 50 videos. Each of will be having around 1 hour video. ఓకే, అలా మీకు 1 hour వీడియో ప్రతిసారి మీరు ఇంటర్వ్యూ 2 days ఉందనగా అరౌండ్ 45 to 50 వీడియోస్ వినాలి అంటే ఇట్స్ హైలీ ఇంపాసిబుల్, రైట్? సో మీరు రన్నింగ్ నోట్స్ రాసుకున్నారనుకోండి, ఏ రోజు ఆ రోజు ఇన్ యువర్ ఓన్ లాంగ్వేజ్, మీకు ఏ లాంగ్వేజ్ లో అర్థమైతే ఆ లాంగ్వేజ్ లో రన్నింగ్ నోట్స్ రాసుకుంటే మీకు ఇంటర్వ్యూ టైంలో వెళ్ళినప్పుడు ఫాస్ట్ గా మీరు బ్రషప్ చేసుకోవడానికి ఈజీ అవుతుంది. ఇట్స్ మై ఒపీనియన్. లేదు మీరు ఈ 1 hour వీడియోస్ ఇంటర్వ్యూ టైంలో కూడా వింటాము అంటే ఇట్స్ అప్ టు యూ.
Okay.
మై సజెషన్ ఇస్ బెటర్ టు మెయింటైన్ అ సపరేట్ నోట్స్. బికాస్ మధ్యలో ఇంటర్వ్యూ క్వశ్చన్స్ కూడా చెప్తాను. అలా చెప్పినప్పుడు మీరు సపరేట్ గా ఇంకో చోట నోట్ చేసుకోండి. ఓకే, టాపిక్ వైజ్ గా, ఐ మీన్ గిట్ టూల్ ఉందనుకోండి, టూల్ వైజ్ గా మీరు ఏ టూల్ స్టార్ట్ చేస్తే ఆ టూల్ వైజ్ గా నేను ఇంటర్వ్యూ క్వశ్చన్స్ మధ్యలోనే టాపిక్ చెప్పేటప్పుడే కవర్ చేస్తూ ఉంటా. అండ్ అఫ్ కోర్స్ అట్ ది ఎండ్ ఆఫ్ ద కోర్స్ ఐ విల్ షేర్, బట్ ఇన్ బిట్వీన్ there will be some situations where I have to explain which kind of questions they are going to ask. So at that scenarios I'll be telling then and there only, so that you will also have some idea, like okay, this kind of questions they are going to ask, so I have to prepare this, that, like that. Okay, so anything else? Fine, guys. See you tomorrow. Let's have class tomorrow at the same time using same link. Okay, thank you everyone. Navin, do you have any doubts?
Oh, no, I don't have.
Okay, అర్థమవుతుంది కదండి అందరికి?
Yes.
సో ఈ ఫ్లో ఓకేనా? or else should I go little fast or little slow?
మీరు లెనెక్స్ కమాండ్స్ బేసిక్స్ నార్మల్గానే చెప్పండి, తర్వాత వెళ్ళుకో, బికాస్ అది టాపిక్ న్యూ కాబట్టి కొంచెం ఇబ్బంది.
లినక్స్ కమాండ్స్ ఐ మీన్
అంటే
అంటే ఫాస్ట్ గా చెప్పాలా
బేసిక్స్
స్లోగా చెప్పాలా?
ఫాస్ట్ గానే వెళ్ళిపోండి.
నార్మల్గానే
నార్మల్గానే
చెప్పండి,
వెళ్ళిపోండి.
లైక్
Okay, fine.
tomorrow's
Let's
class
see
code.
whether the Naveen can able to cope up the things or not. Okay, first I will try to teach fastly. So if you are ఒకవేళ ఎక్కడైనా ఫాస్ట్ అవుతుంది మీకు అనిపిస్తే నాకు చెప్పండి. ఓకే, సో ఐ విల్ ట్రై. వై బికాస్ ఒక్కొక్కసారి టీచ్ చేసేటప్పుడు ఫ్లో వెళ్ళిపోతూ ఉంటుంది అలాగా. మేబీ ఆ టైంలో మీకు ఫాస్ట్ అయ్యి ఏమైనా అర్థం కాకపోతే, ఏదైనా టర్మ్స్ కానీ ఆ పర్టికులర్ కాన్సెప్ట్ కానీ అర్థం కాకపోతే, యూ జస్ట్ స్టాప్ మీ అట్ దట్ పాయింట్ ఆఫ్ టైం. యూ జస్ట్ క్లారిఫై యువర్ డౌట్స్. వై బికాస్ మీకు ఈ కాన్సెప్ట్స్ అనేవి అన్ని ఇంటర్లింక్డ్ ఉంటాయి. మీరు ఒక కాన్సెప్ట్, అఫ్ కోర్స్ లెనెక్స్ అంటే ఇండిపెండెంట్. వన్స్ ఇఫ్ యూ ఎంటర్ ఇన్ టు ద డెవాప్స్ టూల్స్, ఆల్ కాన్సెప్ట్స్ ఆర్ ఇంటర్లింక్డ్. మీరు ఒక కాన్సెప్ట్ అర్థం కాని ఇంకో కాన్సెప్ట్కి వెళ్ళలేరు. సో అలా ఏమైనా కాన్సెప్ట్స్ మీరు అర్థం కాకపోయినా, ఏదైనా ఫాస్ట్ అయినా కూడా మీరు నాకు అప్పుడే చెప్పారనుకోండి, సో నేను అక్కడే మీకు క్లియర్ చేస్తా. ఓకే, ఫైన్. లెట్స్ సీ అబౌట్ లినక్స్ కమాండ్స్ టుమారో. Okay, and I hope every one of you are ready with your account, I mean AWS accounts, right?
Yes, yes.
ఫైన్. ఒకవేళ ఎవరైనా క్రియేట్ చేసుకోకపోతే క్రియేట్ చేసుకోండి రేపటిలోపు. వై బికాస్ రేపటి నుంచి మనము క్లాస్ స్టార్ట్ అవుతుంది, ఐ మీన్ కమాండ్స్ స్టార్ట్ అవుతాయి. మీరు కూడా సైమల్టేనియస్ గా ప్రాక్టీస్ చేస్తే బెటర్. డోంట్ వెయిట్ ఫర్ టిల్ ద ఎండ్ ఆఫ్ ద మంత్ ఆర్ ఎండ్ ఆఫ్ ద వీక్. ఓకే, వీకెండ్ ఉంది కదా, వీకెండ్ లో ప్రాక్టీస్ చేసుకుంటా అలా మాత్రం వద్దు. ఏ రోజు కమాండ్స్ ఆ రోజే మీరు టైం ఉంటే మాక్సిమం స్పెండ్ చేయండి, ఒక 1 hour అన్న అట్లీస్ట్. సో మీకు హెల్ప్ఫుల్ అవుతుంది. ఓకే, థ్యాంక్ యూ గైస్. థ్యాంక్ యూ ఎవ్రీవన్. థ్యాంక్స్ టు ఆల్.
Thank you.